we'll go ahead and get started here. It is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. My name is Nick Kremp. I'm the conservation agent for the city of Leominster. Before we really get started, I just want to remind everyone, if you have any cell phones or electronic devices, just please put them on silent so we don't get any interruptions or any hearings. With that, I'll go ahead and continue on with a roll call of the commission. Jim Chambers.
Here.
Stephanie Quinlan.
Present.
Ken Ridlin.
Present.
Mike Seekey.
Present.
Bob Seacard.
Present.
Rich Gullick.
Present.
And Chuck Raymond.
Here.
All right, everyone's here.
Hey.
All right, and with that, I will go ahead and hand it off to our chair, Chuck Raymond.
Thank you, Nick. What we do, fairly recently we've started an effort to have after the call to order, have the first item on the agenda as a open period for anybody in the audience that if they're not on the agenda, if they have any other issues they'd like to bring up to the Conservation Commission. Anybody here? You're probably all here for a particular, okay. So just want to make sure that's fine. Fair enough. All right, so moving on to new hearings. I'll go ahead and read it into the record, the first one anyway. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a request for determination of applicability, or RDA, for the construction of a rail trail terminus in the riverfront area of Moonoosuc Brook. Address Depot Square, map and parcel not applicable. And just to make sure that anybody's interested in an RDA, there is no construction plan, at least in terms of what we're hearing tonight. This is just to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of where the wetland boundaries are, that's all. So we'll go ahead and anybody here to represent that project. Yes, please come up, introduce yourself.
Hi, Andrea Kendall, LEC Environmental Consultants, and John Hendrickson with Stantec.
Okay.
They're the design engineers, and I put the RDA together. Sure, and maybe I might ask one of you to flip the pages as we speak.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is an RDA actually for a small piece of the Twin City Rail Trail that is within the Conservation Commission jurisdiction. It's within the 200-foot riverfront area.
Okay.
It's within the outer riverfront area, so the 100 to 200 foot. And I was here, I guess, a good number of years ago at this point for the other section of the Twin City Rail Trail, and Stantec as well for the completion, I guess, north of this downtown section. So some of you maybe look familiar. I don't remember.
We got a lot of new faces. Yeah.
So you might have remembered that project. It's up and running. It's in great shape. You know,
Wonderful.
Lots of hiccups, you know, along the way in terms of encroachments and property ownerships, but they got through that. So if you wouldn't mind flipping, I think to the keep going. Yeah. So Moonoosuc Brook is on the west side, plan left, or actually south side of Water Street. That's the area in blue. And it's located down a pretty steep embankment. There's an old, I guess, former railroad bridge that extends over there, an existing access way. The 100-foot buffer zone from the bank, the mean annual high water, is in orange.
I'm gonna do my banner one.
Yay.
Beautiful.
And then the 200-foot riverfront area is the area in pink.
Sir, if you could just stand over there, I think, then the camera can see that.
So there is just a short segment of the phase 3, the final termination of this project within conservation jurisdiction. It does extend north a few hundred feet. I forget the exact distance, but this segment is occupied by Depot Square area. So it's largely paved now, impervious surface, with a little bit of green space there. What they're planning to do is remove all the pavement, add that terminus area. It's going to be more of like a landscape feature with a circular patio area, seating, some walls, and then a sidewalk that takes you to Water Street, but then also provides kind of a route to get across the street and then connects you down to Mechanic Street area where the other segment of the trail is. And I think there is, yeah, so it's downtown, so if you were to go out of
Do you have a map,
City
Lucas?
Hall, yeah,
Can
we
you
can
show
go
us
back to the.
Schofield's on there, please? Schofield's power place?
So this is Schofield's,
Mhm.
and they're actually infringing, as you probably know, onto the railroad right of way. So the right of way actually goes where this line is here. So their equipment is currently on the, actually still the MBTA. The city is in the process of purchasing the road.
I'm purchasing which?
The corridor, the entire rail corridor.
Okay, the corridor.
Yes, the former rail corridor. This is Water Street, Summer Street Depot, this is the liquor store.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where there's a tight curve in front of the liquor store today, we're actually making the smooth curve and using that as basically grass and landscape. So this
So is
is,
the Leominster News and all that stuff coming out of it?
oh no, we're
No?
building around it, everything's staying. So that basically getting free landscaping and grass and,
Nice.
yeah. And this is, the trail continues this way towards Carter Park.
Okay, so,
Could you fix the entrance into Enterprise Bank?
what exactly are you doing?
So basically, this would be the trail going all the way to Fitchburg.
Okay.
And it goes in front of the depot, the liquor
Right,
store. And we're just putting a terminus at the end. Because this is the end of the rail trail. So instead of the trail continuing down here, this is actually, this is Manusnack Brook and the bridge. Even though this is not active, the trains actually use it to back up. So we can't continue it past that point. So this would be the terminus. So instead of just putting a trail to the sidewalk, we're putting a circle, landscaping, seating. And so basically that would be a destination.
So, Nick, why is this an RDA versus a notice of intent?
Because they're just within the outer portion of the riverfront area.
Okay.
And it's relatively, they're not, it's like they stated already, there's a lot of impervious surface out there already.
So we're making it better.
Yes, yeah, basically. But there's an activity out there, but it's not,
Okay.
it's not a super high impact or anything like that.
Right, and we are increasing the pervious surface by 900 square feet, so reducing impervious. So there's a net benefit, and there are provisions in the regulations that allow you for, this kind of de minimis work, where we're increasing, removing impervious and replacing it with pervious and whatnot. There are opportunities to do it through an RDA, and we just thought this was
Okay.
simpler. And they're actually going out to bid
Well,
soon.
yeah, probably July.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna be built this year or next year, but yeah, they're going out to build.
Nice. I mean, it's a wonderful project.
And right now it ends by the cemetery there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So it's gonna go through Carter Park.
Yeah.
And then it's, yeah.
Um,
And the only reason we didn't do it at that point is that the city didn't own this corridor. For some reason, this short section was owned by the city.
Got it. I was wondering about that.
Is it currently owned by the city, or you're still in the process?
It's still in the process.
I don't have any questions. Anybody on the commission have any?
No, everything being done is across the street from where the river is.
Correct.
Mhm.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So if you want to just flip, there's a segment that shows kind of the opportunities for people to continue down to Mechanic Street, the Newsnack Brook Trail,
Oh, yeah, right.
the bold dash line.
So we actually, there's two sections of Newsnaw Brook Trail that were built probably 10 years ago, not even that long ago. Remember this bridge over the Newsnaw?
Mhm.
So we did come here for those. And so, since we can't connect directly to them, we're just putting signs, so people can walk on the sidewalks. And this turns out this is a city-owned property, so they cut through the parking lot, end up at Newsnaw.
And that's where all the Newsnack Brook improvements are proposed as well, that some of you might be aware of, that was permitted a little while back.
Yeah, nothing's happened on that yet, is there?
No, still waiting on some of the permits.
So the rail trail is not going down beside, over the river
No,
beside Jenny's?
correct, because of the MBTA usage.
I'll start with the commission, in terms of questions, comments?
All set.
Okay, now, I don't think there's anybody in the audience that has any questions, okay, so we'll go ahead and close this portion of the RDA hearing. Thank you. Nick, what are your recommendations?
Should I leave this here?
No, you can take it.
Yeah, you can take it. So based on the.
Gentlemen, we can,
Just explain something.
okay, all right.
On the other side, 12. That's between where the tavern is, and goes up to it by Kathy's. There. Okay?
Okay, go ahead, Nick.
So, yeah, based on the location of the site, relative to the river and the existing conditions being mostly impervious surface and the changes being more to permeable, I'd recommend that we find a -2 determination on this, namely that the site is within our jurisdiction but will not alter the area.
All righty? Got it?
Yep,
Okay.
that's my recommendation.
Good, all right, I will then entertain a motion to issue a -2 determination on this, under the Wetlands Protection Act.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, second?
I will second the check.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Ken Ridlin,
Yay.
Jim Chambers,
Yay.
Stephanie Quinlan,
Yay.
Rich Gullick,
Yay.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
All right, so we find a -2 determination requiring no further NOI filing. So you're all
Thank you
set.
very much. Appreciate
Great
it.
project, thank you.
Thanks, good luck.
Thank you. And just give me 1 sec, I gotta grab something from my office.
Okay.
You can go ahead and read it, and I'll be right back.
Okay, all right. Well, next doing that, I'll go ahead and read the next new hearing into the record. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a request for determination of applicability, another RDA, for the conversion of lawn into a parking area in the riverfront area of Manusnak Brook. I just meant Manusnak Brook, yeah. Address 85 Pleasant Street, map and parcel 3-16. Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay, come on up, introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Kent. I'm the new property owner. I just bought the property, I think 2 months ago.
Okay.
So I'm looking to just have more parking area, just put some maybe gravel down. If necessary, have supportive concrete blocks below it.
Okay, and this is.
It's just flat lawn.
No, but if it's great, why are you converting it to a parking area?
Oh, yeah, so I spoke with the building department. I said to them I might be considering turning the second floor from industrial to residential.
Okay,
And then they said you need parking.
there you go, okay.
And I asked them, they can park on the lawn? They said, well, it would be better if it's gravel or, asphalt or something.
Okay,
And they told me the least intrusive thing, which he said they do a lot of towns, is they put down like concrete block and then they put gravel on top. So you can just put gravel on top, but he said it might be a mud pit if, it rains too much. So.
this is all about the drainage, okay.
So I'm passing around a map that Kent had sent me, and he outlined in blue the area to be converted to gravel.
Yeah, I checked it out on Google Earth earlier today, yeah.
So I'm just looking at just putting maybe 3 apartments in. And I figured, it'd be more beneficial to go from industrial to residential from a conservation perspective.
Yeah, no, the fact that it's permeable, so the water can seep through instead of running off into the brook is
There's the
important.
brook there. The opposite side of the property here is converting to parking.
And that was based on the suggestion of the building department.
Sure,
So-
that's a good one.
So are you are you planning on converting that entire, what is now grass area to gravel, or? a
It
portion of that?
all depends on what the building department tells me.
Okay.
Yeah, but I figured if I'm putting in only 3 apartments,
Mhm.
it might be like 1 spot or 1.5 spot, you know what I'm saying? So there's plenty, if we're only putting in 3, I could easily put in 8 spots, but I might only need 4,
Right.
do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
a lot of it's not up to me,
I think it depends on the number of bedrooms you put in.
that's right, that's exactly right. So I think 2 bedrooms, then you need 2 spots, and then if it's 1, you might need 1 or 1.5, every town's different,
Okay.
but there's plenty of space just for the 3 units.
This is an idea.
RDA, yeah. Yes, Jim.
Hi, could you explain the hollow concrete blocks?
That was explained to me by the building department. So some people, they say you can just put gravel down, But he says if you put some, like a block, whether it's like a hexagon or a circle or whatever shape, it helps support it basically is less likely for it to become,
On its
You know,
side, Jim.
yeah,
They
it's-
pop them on their side, and fill them with gravel.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So it's
So
still
it's-
permeable.
it's still
Right,
permeable,
yes.
yeah.
And supportive, it doesn't turn into a mud pit in the spring.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, do you understand what these look like, Jim?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because I've seen people just put gravel down, lots of people do that, but it tends to, be muddy
I
after a
don't know
while.
what a cinder block is.
Yeah, there's actually something called geo block
Right.
that's, you expand and you just break the gravel over it. It's
Okay.
not
Those
steady.
are plastic though, right?
Yeah, some of them are mostly recycled, so.
Yeah, right.
So I still have to take, I don't know if I need the stones, but I have to, they come in different shapes, circle,
Right, yeah.
beehive, regular concrete
Exactly,
block.
yeah.
This is a foot.
How close would the work be to the river edge?
It's close.
Like a budding.
It's
Yeah, it's right on it. Yeah, it's right.
Yeah, if we do this to an RDA, how can we, get straw water or something put there during construction?
We could find a -3 determination that it is jurisdictional, but it would not alter the area subject to the following conditions, and we can condition that.
Okay, all right, I think that if we do a negative determination, that's the way.
That's what I would recommend.
Right, okay.
I would want to see some control there,
Right.
kind of close to the river.
Right.
So before Bob asked the question, I just want to make it clear, this is not what I'm recommending, but if the commission feels that this would warrant an NOI filing, that's also a possibility. We'd have to find a positive determination.
Okay.
But again, I think the scope of the work is such that with some simple erosion controls that, it's existing lawn right now, it's not like he's clearing out forest lot, that it would be acceptable to pass a negative determination with certain conditions applied.
And if that's the way we were to go, I would like to see a condition being that, when they start construction, then they notify you.
Yeah.
Make sure that
Yeah, well,
the erosion controls are in place and ready to go.
Sure.
yeah.
Other people had questions.
So I think my only concern, it sounds like a good plan, my only concern is you don't know what you're gonna build, so we don't know what we're approving.
Right.
So.
But at most, like, we're looking at 3 apartments, right? So that's what I'm applying for. So most will ask
But
me.
3 apartments could be 3 3-bedroom apartments, it could be 3 5-bedroom, it could be 3.
But
one-bedroom
the
apartments.
max parking is always 2 spots.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. I'm doing an existing, for the existing square footage on the second floor. So I can't even put in, it'll probably be like 3 1-bedrooms or 3 1.5 bedrooms, something like that. Due to space limitations already.
If I may, you can just give us a number and say up to 8, and then decide how many,
Yeah.
and we can decide based on that max number.
So it wouldn't be better to come, I don't think, I'll speak for
Yeah.
myself, I don't have any objections to it, but I feel much more comfortable after you have got a building plan so that we know what you're putting in and how many spots you're going to need.
Do you generally need a permit to just, even if I didn't have the concrete blocks, just to put gravel down? Do you need a permit?
I think you need a
Yes.
permit for a parking lot. And
The problem with this project,
is you're
doing
on
it
what?
through, doing it through the negative determination is it's right on the brook. And without an NOI filing, it limits the commission's oversight of the project.
So, again, that's why I pointed out, if the commission as a whole felt more comfortable with seeing this come through as an NOI, they could you could impose that. I would recommend against that, just because it seems to me to be a little burdensome for what the project is. Even though it's close to the brook, this is the only outdoor work
Yeah.
that you're proposing.
And also the alternative, is that it's an industrial property, so alternative, I already talked to the building department, it's still fully approved for manufacturing. So I actually thought I was doing a betterment by, because there's actually industrial material in the property. It was a plastics manufacturer, so I'm a little bit surprised that going from a plastics manufacturer to,
Yeah, but
3
we have-
apartments.
We've had history of manufacturing facilities located on Minnesota Brook that have, you know, added substantial amounts of pollution, so, I mean, that's not a good bargaining chip.
Yeah, so.
No, because it's an industrial, I'm actually trying to go the opposite way.
We
you know,
understand
But
that.
we don't know, I just don't know what you're doing.
The fact that it's right
I
on,
mean,
Just putting gravel down.
I know, but how many, to service how many apartments? I think it's a beautiful, it is an industrial part of the area, but there's very little green space down there. And you're taking away more of what's there. I don't think anybody is objecting to it, it's just, well, I'll speak for myself. I don't know. Ultimately, when you have to get a building permit for the apartments, correct?
Yeah,
If you were to come back after you get the building permit so that we know what you're building, I would feel more comfortable doing that myself.
Jim, one quick thing, and I'll get to you. The issue over here, I'm sorry, your last name was?
Leon.
Leon. The issue is that it's right on the top of the bank, if you will, right, it's right on the brook. And our charge as a conservation commission is to be a steward of the city's waterways and wetland areas. So this is right on the brook, it falls well within our jurisdiction, and it's up to us in terms of how we can permit activity within the 100 feet of any water resource. So
That's why
Yeah.
the very first thing I did was go to the building department and talk to conservation before
Yeah.
moving anything forward, because when I went to the building department, I asked them what would be a more ideal use. I spoke with them because they said the current situation is that I bought it as an industrial building and I have all these people that want to, do X, Y, Z inside the building.
Yeah.
But I figured that when I literally look around, everything else is an apartment. So,
It's a good thing.
yeah, so the issue is that if it, it's not if I can't do residential, I would just, stick to the zoning it's been for like 60, 70 years.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying.
Nobody's telling you.
Yeah, so but I'm just trying
Right.
to make something, for me, it makes more sense because everything around it's in a like residential, like literally everything around it,
Yeah.
right? And, also looking around it, there's almost not, everything is like a impervious surface around it.
Mhm.
Besides this, like,
That's the reason, right there.
your intent
Everything around it is impervious.
is to convert the entire building to apartments?
no, just the second
Second
floor.
floor?
Just the second floor.
And how about the first floor?
I don't know what I'm gonna do with the first floor.
And the activity.
Rich, Jim had us.
Well, first off, this is industrial property, so I'm wondering, when you purchase this property, sir, did you have to have a 21E study done for the possible environmental contamination?
I did not. I effectively bought it, I found the opportunity, I basically bought it, sort of like in cash, purchase it.
That is related to my concern with converting this. I'm not sure if you're gonna be removing any soil or just bringing in these stones and bringing in the gravel, but it is likely in an industrial area that this soil is not particularly clean, and stirring that up, having that increased availability for washout into the river, not just during construction activities, but afterwards as the lot is being more actively used. And I think something like gravel is like maybe harder to maintain over time. That's my concern.
Okay. Because I was trying to go away from the asphalt just to avoid any water going into.
No, which is fine.
And we applaud you for that.
Right.
I don't know
Good.
if the commission has the authority to request a 21E
Yeah,
in an order of conditions, maybe?
I think that's going beyond a
Yeah.
stretch, that
I would
as
hesitate.
to assuming that there is contamination there because they were industrial as opposed to, most of the activity was indoors, all of the activity?
Yes, it was
So who
3 or
has the-
4 plastics manufacturers prior to me purchasing it. So when I purchased it, the existing owner wanted to stay, and I said, well, my plan is to try to make it less intrusive to the neighborhood, and try to bring it to highest and best use. So I told him I told him, it was honest, my plan is to convert the second floor residential, I'll get more money per square foot. But I let him know that if I'm not able to, I'll rent you a portion of it. you know, just because it literally, not just one tenant, it's like, there's literally 3 or 4 plastics manufacturers in a row.
As a conservation commission, my interest isn't so much what you're doing in the building as it is the activity of the outside that would actually affect the stream. I don't believe what you're doing inside will affect the stream necessarily, the brook. The concern for me isn't after you put in the gravel, because it stays fairly impermeable, or at least close to what it was before, the blocks block a little of that. It's the actual activity of putting that in and potential erosion there that, at least my view as a commissioner, focuses on getting some wattles
Mhm.
and the standard things that we include in the conditions of
Right.
the notice of intent,
Right.
or the order conditions that goes with that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't see anybody necessarily opposing the whole project.
No.
by any means.
Yeah, I like to just emphasize Rich's point that our concern is primarily what's happening outside in terms of like disturbance that comes about through construction and ongoing conditions after that. I mean, we could ask questions out of curiosity about what's going on inside, but it's not, to me, that doesn't seem like it should really affect it.
But again,
Uh.
because of the location of the
Mhm.
property and the fact that it is on top of the Moose-Knock Brook,
Mhm.
I would like to see the process of an NOI.
And that's something that we can all vote for or against, absolutely. Yes, Jim?
Well, the manufacturing facilities may try to do their work outside, but they often store their materials outside and are subject to, you know, whatever damage or whatever.
Store/bury.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they, I mean, just on a kind of an, actually, I won't say that, never mind.
So,
I'm not saying there is, but that's.
When did that change?
Why I'm just concerned about even putting in a permeable,
There's no place to bury.
It's already a permeable situation.
well, maybe it should be impermeable with a drainage.
No, because it's on the other side of the brook is here, the building is here, the parking area is
It's
on
divided.
the other side of the
Outside of the brook.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, that leads into my question I had, he was just pointing out that the parking area proposed is on the opposite side of the brook.
From the building.
So
Okay,
that
I
leads,
didn't realize that.
yeah, so that leads into my question, do you know what the history of that side of the property was?
What, the building side?
The opposite of the building, because the manufacturing and everything took place inside the building,
Yeah, but I'm sure from what I can't guarantee it, but I think they probably stored like vehicles,
Mhm.
like maybe bobcats and,
Okay.
forklifts and that type of stuff,
Okay.
Yeah. I do want people, I'm trying to make it
No,
more
we understand.
conforming.
we're
Yeah.
totally on board with your efforts, it's just that, again, we're trying to be the best stewards we can of the Middlesex Brook and the wetland areas, et cetera, in the city, so that's all. But in
Okay.
terms of your efforts to make it permeable and permeable, and do the best you can, no, we have no problem with that whatsoever.
Is the preference to make it impermeable?
no.
No,
We like
no.
more-
I
You're on the right track. You're on the right
I got my terms mixed up, sorry about that. Any other questions, comments?
Well, just the one comment, my concern is not knowing how many apartments, how many parking spaces you will need. And I think we'd probably I would like to see the approved the building plan, what you're telling the building department you're going to do, and they're telling you how many parking spaces you need. And could we kind of agree on putting in as many as you need, with some conditions, but not more, just
I
just
think,
clear cutting the whole thing.
sure, I think that's reasonable. I mean, I can only probably get six.
Somebody clear cut.
Oh, there's trees on there.
No.
Just around the edges.
But on the edges.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I would imagine probably there it's about 8 spots. Anywhere between, I can easily get 6 to 8 spots.
But max 8.
Max 8, so I mean, if you wanted to, in writing, put the provision, the restriction.
But then.
Because I'm just trying to be reasonable, because the thing is, the other person that wants to rent it is like, they fix things, right? They're like a machine shop, and they fix different parts and stuff like that. And I much prefer them not storing like whatever, like bobcats.
Solvents.
Yeah, all that stuff. So like that's, at least for me, I'm not a professional, right, in terms of environment. In terms of what it has been used for and what, it's, if I follow the same track, someone's storing like, those, was it insolvents,
Chlorinated solvents, yeah.
Florida safe solvents in those vehicles, I think that's, worse in comparison,
We're not arguing that at all.
Okay.
But you just mentioned that the one point is, you might agree to just 8 parking spots. Well, what happens if you go to the building department with your plan of making this many apartments and they say you need 10? So we'd be putting the cart before the horse.
but then I can only do 8.
You only have space for 8?
Per zoning.
No, I mean.
No, I mean, I'm just like ballparking this place.
No, but I mean, if the building department's, the zoning says you've got this many bedrooms, so you need this many parking spaces, and we haven't given you enough here, you'd have to go back through the whole process.
But I wouldn't do, more than what's allotted. My goal isn't to like shove a bunch of apartments in.
No,
My goal is just to get just enough. I think you can fit 3 units very comfortably, 3, maybe 4.
I get the impression we're kind of covering ground we've already covered here. Jim, did you have something, did you have your hand up a second ago?
Yeah, I had two points of concern, because I did stop by the property and it looks really nice now. It has some nice trees on it too that are 16 to 18 feet, 18 inches rather in diameter. My concern is, number one, elevation of the existing grade now, which is about 6 inches off of the pavement, which is very good for any kind of runoff or anything like that. It will go down the drain, the city drain in the roads and like that. I'm interested, are you gonna keep that grade or are you gonna decrease the grade from the sidewalk?
I don't know. I didn't.
Okay.
But I'm open to reasonable advice. I think, if there was a restriction, you put 8 spots in. I would never need more than 8 spots, just because if I'm putting 3, even if I put 4 in, they can't require more than 2.
Two per unit?
2 per unit. That's like, you can't say 5 per, you know what I'm saying? There's like, typically, even for like 2 beds, it's like 1.5 spots.
Okay.
Now,
what are the provisions we can make, if you can go into a little more detail with the -3 determination?
It could be any conditions that the commission agrees on,
Yeah.
and that could be anything from erosion control to limiting the work area, limiting the number of parking spaces he ends up with, building materials, any of the normal conditions that we could add on to like an order of conditions, we would just add that on to this.
The reason I asked that is because if depending on if I were to make ask for a motion for a -3 determination, if anybody in the commission is comfortable and they want to go an NOI route, then vote against the motion, and depending on how it goes, then we can figure out where to go at that point. Jim, is there something else?
Well, I had two concerns. Looking at the amount of space available in that corner for parking, you say maybe 6 to 8 or whatever it is. The cars themselves are going to have to either back in or front in. And my concern, or the commission's concern anyway, would be that you were protecting the brook, that we would be afraid that something would get launched into the brook.
Well, they're parking towards the outside. They're parking away from the brook, so they're driving in and turning in.
They don't be on the street
The
side?
goal is to have it on one side, to have the
Street
least.
side, yeah.
Yeah, the street side, they have the least amount of impact. They won't be, you know what I'm saying, they're all on one side.
Gotcha,
Street
okay.
side.
All right.
So there's just to clarify, there's a fence out there right
Yes.
now, right? So you'd be like pulling up against the fence
Yeah,
next to the street.
that's right.
All right.
Which is like one row.
Just one row,
lots
that's
of-
right, yeah.
Of spaces.
Do you have something else?
No, I'm
You all
good.
said, okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? All righty. So Nick, what are your recommendations?
So yeah, based on the extent of the work, the nature of the work, I would recommend that we find a -3 determination that it is in our jurisdiction, but will not alter the area subject to the following conditions. And I've heard preference for erosion control barriers between the resource and the area of work. maxing the amount of final spaces at the end of work to 8 car spaces. And whatever other conditions might be.
One of the ones I mentioned was before it was like before work begins, that he notifies you, so you can verify that the erosion controls are in place.
Okay, yeah, and to notify
That's
the
critical.
agent prior to beginning of work,
Right.
48 hours before the beginning of work.
Do you have something you want to add?
Well, I just wanna, I'm thinking of parking spaces. Normally, you may have that many private spaces, but because it's public access or whatever to that apartment, you need handicap parking as well, I believe.
That's not.
That's
It's not in our jurisdiction, but then what I'm saying is that may require more than 8 spaces there. So that, I think,
I think that's a valid point, and that reminds me of something that Mike had said earlier. You know, so Mr. Leong is already here. It's my opinion that we find a determination at this meeting, and then if Leong is told by other departments or whatever that there's requirements for more spaces, then he can come to us again if required. But if he doesn't need to do that, he's already here, so I think we should try and pass a determination with the facts that we have right now.
I've also just from, you know, what I've seen, I've never seen an apartment where there was like a 3-family where they needed handicap parking. It just, because the amount of units is considered residential. It's like when you exceed 4 units and all the XYZ, that's when, it's like an apartment complex, right? Like I don't know if a single 3-family in Leominster is like handicap parking for, you know, 3 units.
4 unit,
It typically commercial.
He's got a space for 4 units though.
Yeah, it's more than 4 is considered commercial. Yeah.
You were saying 3?
Yeah, my plan is 3, maybe 4, so it's when it goes above 4, that's when
Okay.
it might have the possibility, but even then, it's like, I mean, unless you have seen a 3-unit have a handicap requirement, I've never seen one in any city or town. But just me personally talking, I'm not professional for that stuff.
There has to be something to address Commissioner Seacard's concern about the elevation.
Okay, we could put in a condition that states, the existing grade should, I mean, we'd have to word it.
Well, the water would shed towards the storm drains essentially, is what we're
I
looking
mean, we don't even know that the existing grade is
at. Correct.
good. I mean, but it's certainly an issue that, you know, we should look at.
So we could condition that the final grade of the parking area be in such a way that it tilts toward existing stormwater infrastructure.
Why do we want that? As
Um,
opposed to letting that go through the soil, go and help clean the water as it goes to the river?
I'm just trying to address this, I mean, I
That's
think
just
that would
how-
actually.
I'd rather
It's gonna be,
It's
I'm just saying,
it's gonna be
address,
permeable.
just address the elevation, that's all. Bob brought that point up.
No,
And I
that's a
think,
fair point.
you know, I'm not saying, you know, grade it, you know, at a 90-degree angle or anything like that. It's just an issue that needs to be, you know, kept in the forefront, I think. I mean, we're talking about a parking lot.
It seems like a lot of considerations for an
And
argument.
I,
A gravel
so,
top parking, yeah.
Seems like what we would normally put into a notice of intent condition.
But that, I mean, that is what the -3 determination is for, is to add whatever conditions are.
Understood.
Yeah. But
At some point, it converts in.
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead, John.
So we could put in a condition that the existing grade shall not be altered, like, sort of not be raised or lowered to like greater than a foot or something like that, like, cause I don't get the sense that.
I'm not gonna raise it a foot.
Exactly,
You know,
like, he's not trying to.
It's just gravel.
But
you
just,
know.
No,
if
just-
there's concerns about changing the topography of the site in such a way that's gonna put more pressure on the brook, I mean, we can put a condition in such as that to help ensure that that doesn't happen.
All right. All right, well then, based on the concerns we've raised and the conditions that we have mentioned and that Nick has been writing down, I will entertain a motion to issue a -3 determination on this, with special conditions as we've described. Anybody to approve that motion? Okay,
Make that motion.
okay. And any, who would like to decline that motion? Is that how we do it? Yeah, I think, yeah.
One red eye. Nope,
You would
All
like
right,
I'm
so-
supposed to speak there, but I'd like to see us go through the.
All right, well, so let's just, we can get names here, so, should I make an alternate motion to disapprove the RDA?
I think if no
Does
one
it make
makes a
sense?
motion, then nothing happens, so I
Okay.
don't think we need to deny.
Okay, so there was, there would need, well, I don't need, do I then make a motion for an NOI, what's,
I'm pulling up
is that the
the,
way to do it?
I'm pulling up the determination right now to see what's,
Alright.
what exactly
I
that would
think
be.
we-
It would be a positive determination, but I have to see.
Oh, that's right, because it's already, all right, yeah, that makes sense, yeah,
Because we're positive, we're determining that this is positively,
okay.
That it could impact until we see more.
yeah, that would require. an-
Sounds like it'll still happen, but we'll have more oversight this way, like
One
you're
way or
asking.
the other, he's gotta file some paperwork. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
It's,
So, I'm
it's,
more
I can withdraw
comfortable.
that, I'll just, honestly, it seems like it's too much trouble. I'm just gonna not convert to residential.
Oh, this
No,
will,
no.
sir, this
No,
is,
that's
this is
No,
not
I
you.
just, I think it's, I really thought I was trying to do like,
No, we're not trying to stop you from
Not
doing
gonna
it.
stop at all.
The only
No, we-
thing is
We
that.
actually would like you to do it.
no, it's just like, I'm just putting stones down.
Mhm.
You know, I'm trying to like, you know,
And it's just, these are issues that we addressed on a regular basis. If it was a similar situation, I mean, an NOI is not a big deal.
No,
It's
you
not
don't,
a big deal.
you don't need to hire anybody. You
No,
shouldn't
we're
need
not
to.
asking for engineering plans, we're not asking for, you know,
Yeah. But simply because you're right on top, literally on top of the brook.
that's the concern.
We're just looking for a little more oversight over
That's all.
whatever. That's all, we have no problem with what you're doing, we just want,
it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll just keep the industrial.
You sure?
It's just, I
okay,
don't, I'm just trying to make it simple,
Alright.
right? So the thing is, I'm trying to go through the process to
Mhm.
fill the building,
sure.
and I have industrial tenants because it's an industrial building.
Mhm.
But I was trying to make it more streamlined, so there'll be less issues with, you know, neighbors complaining about noise.
Yeah.
I can get a little bit more rent from residential, but the building is, the second floor is empty. I need a path, a very straightforward path to forward, so I can tell a lender, listen, you know, I'm going, you know, because I'm a lender that wants to, you know, lend a bank
Yeah.
to, you know, they like residential.
Yeah.
Right, so you know, you put 3 apartments in your 4, that makes sense, there are apartments around it, we think that you can rent it pretty easily. You know, and the issue is that I don't know if you.
Let's let him finish.
So, I don't know if you watch the, you know, the news, but the lending environment and inflation, banks are not, like, they're very particular about the lending environment right now. So, for a bank, they're more receptive to residential if you know, it's either I fill it now with like a tenant who wants to pay me right now, or I get a little bit more money, but I have a straight path where a lender will lend to me if I get the money to do it.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to make it difficult on anyone, but I can't support the mortgage if I can't, like, either bank gives me money now
Right.
through a process,
Mhm.
or I have to take rent at June 1st or July 1st to someone else.
Okay.
You know, I'm just being honest that I need the, you know,
Okay.
the money to
No,
come through.
understood.
And it's also on the other side of the brook. You know, I'm not trying to put water, like, I'm trying to avoid the people putting their like forklifts and all that stuff on the lawn, which they've done historically, right?
Okay.
You know,
No,
so I'm just
appreciate
trying to make it easier for everyone. I'm just being really honest that I need the lender's support.
So I think he's described the situation pretty well, I don't think we need to rehash it too much. Did you have anything, Jermaine, that's pretty brief? Michael?
Me, I'm never brief.
I'm asking you to be that.
Would it be reasonable, and I'll address you, because you seem like a reasonable gentleman, to go to the building department and say, this is what I wanna do, get the residential approval. If the building department comes back and says you have to have 10 spots, then you come back to us and the RDA may work.
But then we've still got the issues with the erosion control and the grade and all
That's
this.
what we're gonna have with an NOI or an RDA anyways.
Yeah, the building department also, they want, you know, the first thing they told me, when I tried to apply for, just talk to conservation first. And they're the ones who actually suggested, because my original intent, you know, is like, is there any way they can just park on the lawn? They said, no, probably gravel or something. And that's when they, because he was leaning,
Okay, I see what you
towards the
want.
gravel, as opposed to like, everything around it, even things that are touching the water is like, you know, asphalt.
The point is that there's not that much difference between an RDA determination and an NOI. It's gonna be the same amount of time and pretty much the same process.
You know, my application's with the lender now, so I need to show them if when I draw up building plans, I have to go through other meetings, it makes a difference. We're in a very strict lending environment, because banks are scared. I mean, that's just the honest truth. They were honest with me that, you know, well, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's SVB or First Republic, banks are really not like giving out money. And I'm just being honest about it, right?
Are you excavating material out of this area or just adding?
They're gonna have to,
You're gonna have to,
put down these blocks
To
in the
keep
gravel.
it at that level, right?
Yeah.
You are gonna excavate
Well,
out.
the question is whether I need the stones or not. So that's why when I put in the application, it's gravel and hollow concrete blocks if necessary, with that on the application.
But you would be excavating some soil?
I don't, whatever is required.
I'm pretty certain that you would need to move soil, and because of the historical nature of this property, I'm not comfortable just giving you a green light to go ahead and do that with this determination right now without additional information.
But that's why I was very open, said you can
Yes.
put certain provisions and restrictions that it has to be at whatever, right? Certain grade, or how, it can't be above a certain height and so forth, right?
Well, and that's what we're trying to say that we want with the NOI. We're not saying you can't put a parking lot down, we're just saying that we can't, you know, let you run off with just this amount of information and say conservation said it was fine.
I think some of us might wanna go look at it, and so it would involve another meeting anyways. And if maybe Nick can explain how easy this paperwork would be for you, it's not a big extra step.
Mr. Lee,
The commissioners feel more comfortable.
Hold on. Right now, this, the way I see it, this is in Mr. Leong's hands. What would you like to do?
I don't know.
You know?
If it's gonna be, you know, a long process, multiple meetings.
No,
it's just-
no,
it's just-
it won't be multiple
It
meetings.
would just be easier for me to, you know, to just rent it as is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I could get more money, right, and a lender support if I turn it to residential.
I'll leave it
so-
to you then. I'll say,
I would prefer I would prefer you place certain restrictions, right, certain amount of parking spots. You can't move X amount of, you know, dirt outside, you know what I'm saying?
but that's the thing is, with the way it is right now, we don't know how much would need to be excavated. We don't have a clue. So we can't put a limit on that, because we don't know how much it would be. So that's,
That's
It's
because
weird.
you don't know.
yeah, and you don't know either, so.
We need to see a plan.
Right, there's more information we'd like, we could probably condition it with the negative determination, like Nick said, but the rest of the commission, would prefer just a little more control over and information about what's gonna happen on the property, again, because it's right on top of the brook. So I will leave it to you, if you.
But the comparison, like, they have used the property in a way, like, I'm talking like decades and decades of time.
We completely
Like, in its
understand that.
current usage, and I'm proposing an alternative that causes less damage to,
Mhm.
not only like noise, but literally less damage
It's
to
the
the brook.
activity during the construction of the parking lot.
Yeah.
It's still subject to the law.
We
No, I-
can't assume that the people who are working for industrial purposes with inside the building are being like negligent with their materials. You know, like, we're not assuming because they are using chemicals on the property that they're using or disposing of them incorrectly.
Yeah.
Like,
But
we
they-
can't do that, that wouldn't be fair.
But they do historically have been storing vehicles on, you know, that weren't kept
Mhm.
on there, you know, on the lawn, because there's, you know, limited
And you're
amount
gonna
of space.
store vehicles there too?
I mean, it's, well,
No, hard,
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
overnight.
storing vehicles there too?
it's a parking lot.
It's the same use.
So, so the way it looks like the commission is leaning tonight is that all we want to do is to have just the next level of oversight and control over the activities that you've already proposed. It would just be a little more information, and it would just give us a little more, I hate the word control.
Confidence.
Yeah, a little more thank you. A little more confidence that basically, like as Rich said, the construction activity you put that parking lot in will not be a detriment to the brook. That's literally that's what an NOI would give us a little more confidence in that. That's all. It wouldn't be multiple meetings. Probably one more meeting for you, maybe a site visit for us.
Yeah.
The way I see it, that's probably about it. So you can come either to the next meeting or the meeting after that, and we can do it then. And chances are you walk away with what we're hoping to walk away with tonight.
Were you under the impression that you were gonna get an approval tonight?
I'm just putting stone down. I mean, I mean, like, Jesus.
But you're
Well,
not.
no, but
You're
you're
not
not just
just
putting,
putting
you're not just
stone
putting
down.
stone.
You're
down.
excavating.
You're not.
Yeah.
You've got to excavate.
But you can place parameters within whatever the standing operating protocol when they do this type
No,
of.
no, we understand.
activity,
We
right?
understand.
You might have
But
said that you were not a professional, like when it comes to certain things, like the use of solvents on the site. You didn't get an environmental site investigation before purchasing the property. You acknowledge that industrial uses historically contributed to contamination in a lot of places, right? So you're making the dots, but you're still acting like it's not like there's no risk,
Yeah.
and that's not true.
So if they excavate the soil and take it away, there may be less risk. But there's still potential for sediment to get into the river and so on.
So if I could just briefly explain the NOI process. So the filing deadline for the next meeting, which would be June 13th, is this Friday. Fortunately, we have an extra week between. So if you were to file an NOI this week, then we could get you in for the next meeting on June 13th. And an NOI requires a filing fee, which there's a chart of different fees. I think it would be about $110 for the filing fee. Abutter notices, so you'd have to send notices to certified mail to everyone within 100 feet of the lot, and
Nick can help you.
and another legal ad in the paper announcing the opening of the hearing, which would be June 13th. And I'd be willing to help you with any of that. That all said, if the commission votes for a +1 determination, which is that it's within the jurisdiction and requires further filing of an NOI, and Mr. Leung decides based on that it would be more worth it for him not to convert it, and he's free to do that. We can't.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
Maybe we should vote for the one.
So that said, that if that's what the commission would like, that's up to the vote of the majority of the commission.
Yep.
I'd like to reiterate, based on the nature of the work, to me, I would recommend still that we find a -3 determination and apply certain conditions to it and allow Mr. Leung to do what he likes, constrained by whatever those conditions are, and we can end it here. But like I said, I mean, that's my recommendation, but the commission's free to act however it chooses, so.
What are you thinking?
It's, I didn't expect the response, right? It's just, I'm not saying people that do industrial activities are irresponsible, that's not what I'm trying to imply. But I believe if you were to say to most people, in terms of the potential risk of someone living in an apartment, I would say, that it probably is less risk than an industrial company, right?
So we
So
agree,
I-
it's
yeah.
the
Yeah, we
issue,
agree
once again,
wholeheartedly.
is the outdoor work while constructing the parking
Yeah,
lot.
and you're not
That's
just
the
putting
only
down
thing I'm
stone.
looking
You're
at.
literally excavating on top of right on top of a bank of a stream. That's the issue. You're gonna have to, no matter what you do with that parking lot.
Which again, I would strongly recommend, it just seems to me to be, it seems an imposition, frankly, to require him to file a further NOI, just for what he's proposing. It seems relatively simple. It's gravel, it would still be permeable. I understand the concerns with the proximity to the brook, but that is my recommendation. So I'll just leave it at that.
It's unfortunate that the entire commission has not physically seen the site. I'll just say, that's.
Okay, so I don't think anything has happened in the past few minutes to change folks' minds, so it sounds like we are not in favor of a -3 determination, which would then lead to a positive determination, so if you wanna go, if you do wanna go forward, it will require an NOI. If you wanna go forward with your plans as presented tonight. And Nick can help you with that NOI, and we can probably get you into the next meeting. Mr. Chair?
I'm not moving forward with that. It's just,
Okay.
so,
Okay,
yeah, I was just being honest,
Yeah.
the complications, I have to go back to my lender now saying that, you know, we're not going the residential route.
Mhm.
You know, I have to fill it one way
Sure.
or another, right?
Mhm.
So,
well, if you change your mind, then come back to us, give Nick a call. Michael, did you have something?
No, I'll leave it alone.
Okay,
So, yeah, so we'll have to make a determination, still, I would imagine still, so I would recommend that you ask to make a motion for a positive one
so
determination.
I'll withdraw my previous request for a motion.
Yeah,
Yes, Rich?
Would it make a difference to any commissioners if they went and saw the site before we take this vote?
I don't think so.
And potentially do it as just asking.
And I will
To try to
ask-
do
I will ask
both.
my question, would it make any difference to this commission if we put the limitation on that there will be no excavation, which probably means no concrete blocks, because you can't get them level, and to at least temporarily put it in with gravel until the apartments are approved, and then further excavation or further work there as needed, so he could get going. So just don't put any concrete, the only reason for excavation is to get it level, to put the concrete blocks down flat. If we were to say, put in a gravel parking lot, lay the gravel in, rake it out, it's a parking lot. That's where it is, you can't plow it, you can't do that, I wouldn't personally do that, but, does it make a difference if there's no excavation?
Yeah,
Yes,
yes,
if
it
they
would.
couldn't excavate it, they
Can
couldn't
we
plow.
make that?
That's
is-
less impact.
Would that be something that you could live with?
sure, that's why I put in the application concrete blocks if necessary.
if necessary, right?
I wrote that right in there, you know.
All right, so if we were to change this, that you were just going to put down gravel on top of the ground as it is now with no excavation, you know, you just have to flatten it with whatever
Compactor?
compactor, yeah. Would that be amenable to you?
Yeah, as long as it can be used as a parking lot, I don't,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, then, so then, Jim,
Bob.
I'm sorry, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob, Jim.
Whatever your name is.
He's got two large trees there that have to come out in order to get people in there.
That's, he's not proposing that, that's different, I'm not gonna start conflating the two.
And I,
If you're gonna be cutting trees,
That's
that's a different
No
issue,
trees.
he's not in front of us right now to cut trees.
and I don't believe you
So,
would have
That's
to,
gonna cause excavation. These are
But he's not in front of us not to cut down trees,
Oh, okay.
and you wouldn't,
that's a hypothetical at this point.
I don't think that would be required to get access to the site, would it? There's
No.
because you can
There-
drive
there-
around the corner.
There are like the edges of the property.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one is like on Pleasant Street,
Right.
and then one is on whatever that, like,
The intersect that's parallel.
the parallel, yeah, the side street.
Yeah.
There's only 2 trees, and then all the rest is just like,
So you're gonna leave the trees?
I never mentioned cutting any trees.
Yeah, never mind,
Okay.
you're the one that mentioned cutting trees.
Yeah.
I don't
Maybe
know
you
how
want
to get the
You
spots
must
in
need
there.
firewood or
I
something.
know, right?
No,
All right, so.
I don't know how he's gonna get the spots in there, it's
That's
impossible.
not our worry.
So, all right, so if you're amenable to just laying down gravel and using a compactor to level it off, we're happy with that. And we can do whatever you can talk to Nick,
It can turn out to be more.
Under the understanding that if any further work, I think
Yeah.
from an owner's perspective, you're gonna have to plow that. It's gonna be
Yeah.
tough with gravel, that's your worry, not ours. But if any further work needs to be done now or in the future, that you have to come before, you have to come before the commission because it's part of our jurisdiction.
I understand.
So if you're able to get renters in there and next year you say, this is a nightmare, I need to put concrete blocks in here, I need to put, something under the gravel, then you need to come back in front of us and we can talk about it. But at least at that point, you'll have renters in there.
And
So,
then we go to the bank and say, hey, we got a parking lot.
all right, so if you're amenable to just putting down gravel and using a
Because the
compact.
bank knows I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, they
Yeah.
know I'm here, so if they're, literally, if there's like it sounds funny, if there's a positive, it's actually not good, right? So if,
Right.
yeah, so
For you,
in this
yeah.
case, so they're aware that if, you know, the timeline's thrown off, right?
Mhm.
Because the rates change all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
So.
Okay, so, I'll go ahead then and change the motion to a negative 3 determination, with the understanding that Mr. Young is only gonna put down gravel at least
No
this year.
excavation.
No excavation, just gravel and compacted as needed.
Can you do some leveling?
Yeah, that won't hurt anything.
Well,
Yeah.
compacted.
Compact.
Leveling before
And
you
that,
put
and that, at any point, whether later this year or next year, if you want to actually put in, excavate it out, put in the blocks with the gravel over those. If you're just cutting trees, any other work in the area, you know, you need to come in front of us, yeah.
Okay.
Is that amenable to you?
Are we
Yes.
asking for wattles?
Yeah, I would
Yes.
also like to see
Yeah.
maintained erosion barriers between the parking lot and the river.
During their construction.
And those are easy, that's not, no big.
That's while the parking lot's being put down, that's not on into the future, right?
Is that all we can
Because
do? Because if they come in and plow it
it's still
and,
gonna be permeable, well, they plow it anyway.
yeah, okay, all right, you're right.
I thought being permeable was good for the water.
No, it is,
Okay.
it is,
Okay.
it is,
We're good with that.
And the
So,
other, the other thing, Nick, one more thing, is probably not advisable to dig in, if we're gonna, if it's just wattles, it won't be bad. If we wanted a silt fence there during any work he's doing, it'd be advisable not to dig in the silt fence, just leave it with the wattles and gravels.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I've been advised multiple times as the commission that we shouldn't require specific types of erosion control. We can
Okay.
require erosion control barriers, but
Okay,
it would be best to stay out of the business of saying you have to do this.
I agree.
specifically.
Right, so,
I like the wattles.
Yeah.
More than the fences.
so.
before I finish asking for the motion then, are there any other special conditions other than what we've, everybody all set? All right, so I'll make a motion for a negative 3 determination, with the understanding that no excavation will take place, so you just be putting down gravel and using a compactor to make it nice and level. And that if any construction activities, you propose any construction activities going forward, taking out trees, that type of stuff, that,
Notify the agent.
that you'll notify the agent, and it'll go through an NOI at that
Of
point.
course, that makes sense.
Okay.
And the erosion control barriers.
You know, I mentioned the special conditions we've already mentioned.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so with that in mind then, I'll withdraw my previous request for motion and ask for a motion on that one, for negative 3.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Michael. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jim?
I will
No,
take
Bob. My God, I'll get this right in one of these. Can you turn your name tags around for me? Thank you.
Alright. So with that, I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Jim Chambers,
I don't remember.
Stephanie Quinlan,
Aye.
Ken Ridlin,
Nay.
and Richard Gullick,
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
So motion passes 6-1.
6-1.
Yeah, 6, it would lose them. The motion passes 6-1 for a negative 3 determination, with the mentioned conditions applied, so.
All right.
Okay.
So
Sounds
if you, I would advise you to.
I only want to do the right thing.
No,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
glad you're here. I would go, before you start work though, just get back in touch with Nick just to make sure you've got all the special conditions written down, so
Okay.
you don't forget them.
I'll be issuing that determination in
Yeah.
the next couple of days, so
Yeah.
I'll get that
Do
to you.
you mail it or do you email it or?
I can email it to you, I have to mail it.
Yeah, if you can do both.
Yeah, I have to mail it to, you have to get the original copy, but I'll email it to you so you can have it as soon as possible.
I'm not planning to do it like anytime soon.
You just need the approval from the
I
bank,
need
yeah.
to go to the bank.
Sure.
Correct, yeah.
So.
So you
That's
can show, yeah, that's fine.
Anyway,
You're all good.
So.
You were good,
I
my
was
friend.
being honest, I just told you what the
We know you
Yes,
are.
yeah.
issues were, so.
Yes.
No.
I appreciate
Good.
it.
Okay,
All right, well,
Thank
thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch.
okay. Sounds
Thank you
good.
so much.
Have a good evening.
You too.
All right.
That took a little longer than I thought, but that's,
Yeah.
good suggestion, by the way. Thank you, Michael. That was very good. Appreciate it.
That's it for the year.
Yeah, you can leave now.
So before we move on, I would just like to suggest that we move Item A under certificate of compliance up to the next item.
That this gentleman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, good. So we'll skip over a couple items and we'll go down to under regular meetings. We'll touch on certificate of compliance. The first one is for 275 Exchange Street, DP file number 199-640. Sir, come on up and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tony Palmieri, and
Hi,
I'm the
Tony.
homeowner that built the house
Okay.
at 275. If you're familiar with the area, it's the very last house at the end of the street.
Yep.
So if you've got the sharp corner, you got the pond to the left-hand side, I own into that pond.
Okay.
So there was an order of conditions that was put in place by a previous owner, and it just been extended over the number of years. And they never built it. In fact, the previous owner was Paul Colombo, who was on this commission that I bought it from. And then I built the house starting a year and a half ago and just finished. Ground is all stable, everything's in place. Hannigan Engineering is the engineering company that did the site plan. And they came back and they're the ones who just filed for the certificate of compliance. And just for completeness, I'll send this around. This is actually how it looks as of today, showing everything stable and in place.
You made that thing today?
I did. Yeah, I took the pictures this morning and then I've got a big printer.
Oh,
So I printed this stuff out today.
Very nice.
Opening up a golf course.
Actually, there was part of the golf course at one time, back when you had the Pheasant Run Golf Course.
Yeah, right.
But then it was all these 100-foot pine trees and stuff that are there. So we tried to retain the majority of the trees on the property, just to keep the wooded privacy. And we shifted the house away from the pond, closer to the houses on the street behind us, just to provide more of a buffer zone.
So the original NOI was for the construction of the house?
It was, yeah. And the only difference between the very original one is the original one had a pool in it, and we just didn't put a pool.
Okay.
That's all.
I like it.
And Nick was there just earlier this week looking at the property.
Yep.
We tried to keep it simple and do everything the right way. And through the whole process, I was working with Angela at
Yeah.
every step to
Yeah.
make sure we get it right.
So the wetland resource in this case was a pond?
It's the pond.
It's off to the left in that picture,
Oh,
yeah,
over here.
down this way, yeah, it's off to the left of the house when you're coming up.
Got it, okay, all right. Alrighty. Anybody have any questions or anything, comments?
Yep, that's it. Actually, I got a blown up one that makes it easier for you.
Yeah,
There's a sign
Maybe you could just
letter.
pass it around to the, yeah.
How close is your house to the pond?
It is over 100 feet from the pond. In fact, actually, if you look at the sheet that's going around,
Yeah.
it actually shows where the 50-foot buffer and the 100-foot buffer is. I've got a larger version of that too, if it makes it easier for you to see.
Nicholas, what is your recommendation?
So yeah, as Tony mentioned, I was out there, I think it was Friday, but yeah, it was took a walk around the property. He maintains it very well, and everything in terms of the structures on the property have been built to plan. I think the only change that was on there, and is very slight, on the plan, it shows the shed in one particular place, I think a little further away from the pond than it actually is, and that's shifted a little bit closer, but it's still just about outside of that 100 foot, so it doesn't even, if it is within the 100 foot, it's just within the 100
It's outside. And that's the reason
So
we
it's-
did
yeah.
it, is the fire department wanted us to swap where the propane tank was.
Yeah.
So we basically just moved the two from one side to the other.
Yeah.
But it is still outside the 100-foot.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a very slight change, but everything other than that was exactly to plan as far as I can say, so.
Okay.
And I waited till now, so you'd see there was a lawn and everything's stable.
Yeah, right.
Yes, yeah,
You just want to get a prettier picture, that's all.
I know.
All right, so
Likes to show
I'll
Yeah,
then,
just here to show off.
Sure that it was done right.
Yeah,
based on that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for 275 Exchange Street.
a complete certificate.
Complete certificate of compliance.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Stephanie. Second.
Great, thank you.
Well, I'll second it.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Jim Chambers, Ken Ridlin, Bob Seacard,
The house, the 100-foot wetland buffer zone goes through the house. Oh, okay, I thought you said the house was on the inside.
Oh, no. It abuts the 50-foot area, and the part of the driveway in the house does go through the 100-foot. And that was on the original plan that was done, submitted. Back when the
Take the house down?
It was on the approved plan, and then.
it was,
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. My question was, is how close was the house to the,
Right, and I said 100, I meant 50-foot one.
how 100-foot goes through the house?
Yes.
That was a true statement.
Okay. Very long vote. And I think
Anxious me.
Richard Gullick
Oh, we're-
Aye.
and Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 7-0. So you got your
Alrighty.
certificate, all done.
Quick question, when I
Complete
receive,
certificate.
Yes, your complete certificate.
then when I receive the paperwork, all I have to do at that point is file it with the registry of deeds and
That's
we're
it.
all
Then
set.
you're square. Yep.
Perfect. Great, thank you everyone, I appreciate your time and the help through this whole process.
Thank you for your patience
You're
for that
welcome.
hour.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tom.
It's always educational.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's actually.
If you wanna see it
Quite
again,
often
it's
for
on
us.
film.
What was that?
If you wanna see it all again, it's on
Well,
film.
I'll have some of my relatives that watch this all the time. Hey, I see you on TV. What were you doing there?
They have no
Thank you.
lives.
Good night, folks.
All right,
Thank
have a
you,
good one.
have a good night.
All right. All right, good. Anybody need to take any bio breaks or anything, or?
Yes.
You want, okay. So we'll take a couple minute intermission here.
Yeah, 4-minute break maybe
Yeah,
till
yeah.
7:50.
All right.
All right.
So we'll go ahead and get going
That
again.
decision was made.
Thank you for your patience, everybody. All right, so moving on, under continued hearings, I'll read this one to the record too. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 130, oh wait, do I read this in the record? He's not here, do I read it?
I'll read it in the record, we'll talk about it
Okay.
briefly. I'll give
All
you
right,
the date.
I'll read it in the record anyway. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent for tree removal, construction of a coop, and associated machine work. Address 445 North Street, map and parcel 289-1, DEP file number 199-1173.
Right, so you'll all remember well that we had a discussion with Mr. Samos last meeting and some previous several hearings before that. So we all, I think most of us had a site visit yesterday to the site, and he talked about some proposed new locations for the coop. And in preparing for that, I discovered that the neighboring parcel, which part of his work extends into, part of the lawn expansion and brush clearing, pushes into the parcel north of his, which is owned by another person by the name of Alan Quattrali. He had thought that it belonged to another neighbor who he did secure permission from, but obviously other people can't give permission to, one's property. So I need to get in touch with Mr. Quattrali or a representative of his before we can really move forward with permitting the work there, because we would need his permission to permit work on the parcel. So that's where we're at right now.
So we're hoping to have him, well, it
So
depends on whether you get in touch with this guy, whether we can have them.
Yeah, so I just started,
Next date.
I found a couple of possible phone numbers for him that I didn't get through to anybody, but I left some messages today, and then I'm gonna be sending out a letter to the address on file
Okay.
that we have on the property card through the town GIS for him. He apparently lives in Boylston somewhere, so I'll be sending a letter to that address and awaiting a response before the next meeting.
Okay.
And I told Mr. Samos all this, and he's aware, so he's planning on coming to the next meeting, assuming that we get in contact with him.
Okay.
Jim has a question?
I just like to express my concern that even the existing coop is not on his property.
It is.
No, it was on the other neighbor's
No,
property.
it is. When you look on the satellite imagery, there's a picture from the last couple of months. It's from this spring, and you can see all of the work that he's done up to that point. It shows the location of the coop. It is on his side of the property line.
Okay.
I also had that concern though, so I made sure to double check that, and it is on his property. And the new proposed location would also be on his property based on the sidewalk we had yesterday.
Okay, good. Yes,
If
Rich?
I may,
You may.
for Stephanie who wasn't there, the new proposed location moves the coop approximately 20 feet toward, if that much, toward the road.
So further away from the stream.
It's
So
still,
that would be 40 feet from the stream?
No, it's outside the 50-foot line.
actually, that line was not quite outside the 50-foot line. I measured it at 46, which
Yeah.
surprised me. Then I measured another spot at 30. So I put in a request to you guys that we have, if there is a 50-foot requirement, we have to go measure it ourselves
Okay,
and not leave it to the property owner.
okay.
Didn't understand it had to be the closest line to the river. He's taking it from different angles and spots.
Yeah, it
Well, I took
curves
it from
back
this way,
around.
but it's 30 feet,
Yeah.
so. But it is still within the low wet area is what he is proposing. The 50 feet
Yeah.
was less than I envisioned it would be,
Yeah.
I would say. And it's still, the wetlands were not delineated, is that correct?
Correct.
Because I thought they were gonna be delineated after the last meeting, but not a site plan. I thought we'd asked them to do that part of it, so that Stephanie would know where the edge of the wetland was. So without that, I'll assume the whole thing is a wetland down
That is also what my assumption is,
there. Fair enough.
and yeah, my opinion is that it should be outside of the wetland,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how far it is from the stream.
Mm-hmm.
But I am just one person, so if everybody else is okay with the distance from the stream, so it shall be.
Only if you get outvoted.
Only if I get
Alrighty, so we'll make all these determinations in the future.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
keep us
you.
posted. Thank you, Nick. All right, moving on to regular meetings, nothing under new business. Old business, Harwood Terrace site walk with Hannigan Engineering and DPW.
Right, so I had a site walk with John Roseberry from the Department of Public Works and Chris Anderson with Hannigan Engineering, as well as with Josh Brennicky, the property owner at Harwood Terrace, to evaluate the site, discuss some of the ongoing concerns, and discuss some of the possible mitigation measures. So Chris Anderson mentioned the possibility of putting in a level spreader at the bottom of that main pipe, which I think it's the first one going down the driveway to the left. It's at the top of that intermittent stream that lets out, right near the area where it was overflowing its banks and leading to the scouring. So at the bottom of that pipe, he proposed the possibility of putting a level spreader, which would basically consist of like a horseshoe shape of raised crushed stone surrounding the existing riprap down there, and it would act as somewhat of a dam to hold the water back until it either flowed through the stone or reached over the top of the stone, and then would be allowed to spread out and disperse from there, further dispersing the water from what the riprap is already doing, and basically just acting to slow the flow of the water down. There's no official proposal there. He just suggested that as a possibility. But Josh and Chris are going to be working together to, depend. The cost obviously is a big concern with Mr. Brennicky. So depending on the costs and he might we might have a proposal for that as soon as the next meeting. But I'm going to stay in touch with him. Related to that site walk, I also got a call from Mark Bedanza, the city councilman who was at the previous meeting or the previous hearing that we had with Mr. Brennicky about the violation notice, and he suggested that the commission issue a letter to the mayor asking for his support in hiring an independent engineer to do their own analysis of the site in parallel with Hannigan Engineering's, just to keep an independent view of it, make sure
Peer
that
review.
get a second opinion and make sure all possible solutions are looked into for it.
This is a possible solution for this particular property or for the system-wide issues we discussed?
For that particular property, and the mayor has verbally voiced his willingness to do that to me as well. So I don't think he would have any issue with that.
So who would you draft that letter
Yes.
and run it by us?
I could send it to everyone in an email and get some just final approval,
That'd be helpful.
and then issue it to the mayor on our behalf.
Yeah.
But we don't need to wait until the next meeting, I don't think, to
No.
vote on that
I don't
necessarily.
think so, no.
So what did DPW say about the whole neighborhood issue?
So they said that basically that whole system is inadequate to handle the amount of stormwater coming onto the site off the mountain.
We knew that.
Yeah, and
Groundwater.
to fix it, I think it's I don't want to speak out of turn. It's either, I should have made a note, it's either a 12-inch or a 24-inch pipe that leads out of that area, and that's just way too small to take in the amount of water. They would need to expand it to, say, like a 36-inch pipe or even like a 60-inch pipe to handle like 100-year storm events coming off that mountain. And Chris actually sent me some rough numbers just to illustrate that point here. So for the catch basin on Hillary Road, that's right in front of the empty lot down there, y'all might recall, that catch basin in a 2-year storm event, which is about 3 inches of rain, that catch basin is accepting about almost 2 acre-feet of water coming off the mountain. So an acre of land filled to 2 feet of water. In a 100-year storm event would be about 6.5 inches. In a 24-hour period, that catch basin would be accepting almost 7 acre-feet of water. So just
seems like a big ask.
yeah, so that's how that's what it's getting right now, and that's a big part of the reason that in heavy storm events we see a lot of refusal of that water like flowing up out of the catch basins on that street.
How much rain did we get that last big storm? It was about 3 inches, wasn't it?
Was it like 2?
2.7.
2.7?
Just about
Okay.
3 inches, yeah.
Right. So they were getting more. They were getting like 2 acre-feet of water around there.
Okay.
So that's just for some of the numbers people, I found that very illuminating just to really get an idea of how much water is getting into that system. So in terms of I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. Right now, I think we should concentrate on correcting and improving the situation coming off the Harwood Terrace property as much as possible. And everyone that was on the sidewalk today and everyone that I've spoken to on this basically has been in agreement that it's not Mr. Brennicke's responsibility to account for all the water coming off the mountain. We just want to account for the amount of water that he's responsible for increasing the peak flow rates.
And the scouring that was.
Yeah, and the scouring and the wetland.
Which was the violation.
Which is what the violation notice came through, and that's what we are going to probably eventually issue an enforcement order to him in order to build either that level spreader or whatever other mitigating.
Okay, right. Okay.
Just so the commission knows, I made 2 visits during that last rain
Yeah.
episode,
Mhm.
under an inch, and then the next day after it was over with. And it looked like it was handling it pretty well around that, especially it took care of what we were concerned with there.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that Josh pulled up behind me later on after I was already on his property. And
Yeah.
I apologized. He said, "Oh, you come up here anytime you want."
Mhm.
And we walked the whole property. But there was a sheeting of quite a bit of water coming off of the roadway, going down.
Off of Harwood Terrace itself?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was a concern.
No,
And then
his driveway or the road?
The road.
The road going up to it, 600-700 feet or whatever
Yeah.
it was.
Like
the new
flowing-
road.
flowing down the road.
It looked like the whole road
Yeah.
was like just moving.
Yeah,
Oh, it's coming down the road and
down towards West Street, like the end of West Street.
Yeah.
Right.
okay. Larry, did you have your hand raised or something?
Yeah, was there any comment at all about Mark Bedenz's, I'll say assertion that the new stormwater ordinance wasn't followed in the engineering?
There was some discussion of that on the sidewalk, regarding the wording of it. And I believe the wording, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I believe the wording in the ordinance is, to the maximum extent practicable, which is what we're asking of Josh. We can only ask him to do what is possible out there. So in terms of a detention basin or something that would allow the water to settle would be optimal, but it's not practicable on that site because of the ledge present and just the topography of the site. So
Rock.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's my opinion that
There is a difference between practicable and practical. You know what I mean? It's not about what's convenient for him.
Right, and then
It's
I
about
would,
what he's capable of.
Right.
right, and the level, even the installation of the level spreader, you know, based on our conversation today, it's not necessarily convenient for him to do, but that is what it would be practicable, and that's what, you know, not the level spreader per se, but whatever mitigating measures are possible, that's what we're asking them to do. So,
Jim?
I just want to reiterate, along with Nick was saying, is that I think this is a coincidental event, that all the water that's on Hillary Street is not necessarily a product of what's coming down from above.
Right.
That was just a major storm, and that, it's obvious.
It's not a coincidental thing. This has been going on for 3 or 4 years.
No, well, it's coincidental in that I don't think
You
that,
go up there all
I don't think that the property owners, and that's what he's done, necessarily has caused all the water.
Right, property owners wanna put it all on him.
Right, that's what I'm
But this has
saying.
been going on for like 3 or 4 years. It's been
Absolutely.
going on forever.
So that's what I mean by
Yeah,
coincidental.
You're saying the same thing.
There may be a slight increase in the amount of water that the people are seeing on Hillary Road now, but you can't put it all off onto this guy.
Yeah, well, that's what
Correct.
coincidental
When we
is.
were there at the site visit, you could see the water coming right out of the mountain. It's groundwater.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's not runoff, it's not stormwater, it's groundwater.
We're focused on where he has turned it into a bit more of a pipe discharge and how that is scoured. And that's what we're
Right.
solely focused on.
Right, I mean.
All right.
I mean,
Good,
the other
alright.
house from the other end of it was filled in by that pipe in the basement. And
Right.
that was a backup, so that wasn't for us.
So what we're saying on that, clearing that trough or that stream bed going parallel isn't gonna be adequate. So they're level spreading it rather than diverting it down towards that.
So he did remove the log that was
Yep.
jamming that waterway and
It's gonna get out,
leading to
right?
some of that, you know, diversion, which led to the scouring.
Yeah.
But we're asking him to further, you know.
No, but I mean, like the level
Right.
spreader,
But
that's
eventually,
it's gonna just fill up the sponge like this
right,
versus.
but eventually the water that comes out of the mountain up there is going to end up down below.
Mhm.
As
It
it has,
does go downhill.
as it has.
What exactly is
Famous.
But
It
we're,
tells me that all the time.
Usually.
but to
not
the,
always.
Not always.
but to the extent that he's able to slow that down,
Right, I
Right.
think that's, yeah, if you can, if you can decrease the amount of water. But that's not gonna make the people on Hillary Road
He
happy.
won't be able to decrease the amount, he might be able to decrease the
Well,
velocity.
right.
That
Velocity.
impacts certain spots.
But
Alright.
that's still not gonna make the people on Hillary Road happy, I can tell you that much right now.
All right, well, I don't think we're,
That
No,
dead
it's not
horse,
our issue
that
anyway.
dead horse has been.
yeah, all good comments about that. Anyway, again, I think we're treading over ground we've already tread over,
Right.
so. All right, so keep us posted, that's good. Hopefully we'll see him sometime soon.
Yep.
All right,
So I will draft that letter and send it around to everybody,
Please.
like by tomorrow, and then just try and take a look at that tomorrow evening if you can, and
Yeah.
get word back to me, say it's all good.
okay,
and I'll get
yeah,
that to the
like
mail
you get that out as
Thursday.
soon as we can, yeah,
Yep.
okay. All right, so that was that one. Going back to certificates of compliance, there's one we still need to address. 20 Manusnak Ave, DEP file number 199-639. Coincidentally, the number right before the,
Yeah, it was issued at the same
Gentleman's
time as
right.
the original order that he was saying kept getting extended.
Right.
So that's a more typical situation that we see with these. It's a 20-year-old order. The homeowner that lives on the property now is the same one that built the house, and he just explained that it was his understanding that once he got the permit and the construction was done, that his engineer or whoever he was working with was gonna be handling the certificate of compliance, and he thought that was done already. There came some situation where he realized it wasn't done and he needed to get it done, so that's why he is requesting it now.
and this is the road leading into Manusnak Country Club?
Yep.
It's on the left, right before you go over the little bridge there.
Yeah. It's the last house on the left before you get to the golf course. So, I visited the sites on Friday, and it's just the house. There's no additional structures out there. It's all built according to plan. So I would recommend that we find a complete certificate of compliance.
Ready, any questions? Then I'll accept a motion to approve a complete certificate of compliance for 20 Manusnook Ave, DP number 199-639.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jim. Second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Alright, take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Ken Ridlin,
Aye.
Mike Seeky,
Aye.
Bob Seacard.
Aye.
Richard Gulick.
Aye.
And Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
Alright, motion passes 7-0. I'll get that out to him.
Good, thank you all. All right, moving on. Nothing under retention permits, nothing under communications, nothing under enforcement, nothing under emergency certifications. I'm sorry, back up. Communications, that's the open spot for us. Are there any?
I have that under commission news.
Was that commission news? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mix it up, I'm sorry.
Although I think I will be revamping this at before the next
Okay,
meeting.
all right.
I'll make it a little more orderly.
Okay, so moving on, nothing under emergency certification, nothing under budget. Meeting minutes, so there wasn't one for June 28th on the drive today, but there was one for January 24th. Did anybody have a chance to look at that? I did.
I read it, I made some changes this afternoon.
I saw Richard's changes.
Okay.
It was
I
all
agree with
minor that I.
Yeah,
made
I
action.
made a
Yeah,
few
a
the same,
couple
very
grammatical.
minor,
Yeah.
Okay.
Said the meeting was adjourned, not continued to the next meeting. That was the funny
Oh, I
part.
missed that.
Yeah.
Thank you for catching that.
Yes.
All right. All right, well then I'll, if we're all comfortable with it, I'll then accept the motion to approve the meeting minutes for January 24th, 2023.
With the
I'll make that motion.
With the edits that.
with the suggested edits, yeah.
I'll make the motion
Thank you,
to
Rich.
approve that.
And I will second it.
Thank you, Michael.
Alright, we got Rich, we got Mike, I'll take the rest of the commission's vote by roll call. Jim Chambers,
Aye.
Stephanie Quinlan,
Aye.
Ken Ridlin,
Aye.
Bob Seacard.
Aye.
And Chuck Raymond.
Aye.
Alright. Minutes accepted.
All right, moving on, thank you. Under wetland ordinance, open discussion on ordinance planning. So we mentioned last week, and I didn't write the names down, who had volunteered to work with me on a new ordinance?
I
I forget.
haven't gotten much
I
done
think it
then.
was, Jim had meant all.
Well, I-
Yeah.
Thought it was working with the DEP.
Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
form a little subcommittee
Right.
to work with DEP, MACC, whoever we
Yeah,
have to work
right, I
with.
have no news on that.
Okay. All right, was there anybody besides Jim that had raised their hands? No, okay. All right. All right. So,
You shined real good today.
I'll take it upon myself to, I'll work with Nick and I'll get proper contacts and I'll reach out to the MACC and DEP and see what they suggest as the best way to start this process. I really want to get this.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, is to try to get ideas as to the process.
Right,
And at
right.
the front end of that, a vision as to what is it we want from this?
That's the
What
next,
are
yeah,
the
that's the
goals?
next,
So you know where you're gonna try to go
Right.
with it.
So what I might do is, once we have gotten a quote unquote roadmap from DEP and MACC, is then maybe Jim and I, Nick, can just maybe put down some, what do we want in this thing? Then we'll run those by the group and just for discussion, so.
And just something to add into this, you know, as we get further along in this, I'm hoping that this really starts to develop and snowball. And once we actually get a real discussion and a process moving on this, it would be possible to schedule like a special meeting just to talk about the ordinance.
I
I
like
think
that.
that would be
Yep.
helpful so that we're
I
not
like that.
exhausted at 8:30 at night after all the hearings and then we
Yeah.
have to discuss what we want, so, yeah.
Agreed.
So,
Okay.
yeah, just keep me in touch with as things come about and I'll schedule that as needed.
Jim?
Do we not have to do a public notice of ordinance?
We would,
We
so
will
that,
eventually at some point,
I would
yes.
figure
Oh,
out
yeah.
that process.
Would have to go to town meeting?
It would have to be like announced in the paper and posted, like
Okay.
how our regular meetings are.
Okay.
And then the
What-
city council would have to.
Yeah, city council has.
Yeah.
That would be the ordinance, as opposed to having a meeting for us to
Right.
discuss
Right,
it.
right,
We can
that's
do,
right.
we just have a public meeting,
Right,
just like one of these.
Correct, correct. Yep.
When we
Right.
finally get the ordinance together,
Mhm.
that's when it has to go before the council.
Yeah, it's
Correct,
Yeah.
right, exactly, right. No, did you have an ordinance in Lancaster?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was.
It was it, okay.
Yeah.
Was that was that there when you joined?
I don't think it was there when I was chair. There's an ordinance now, Tommy Christopher.
Okay.
Shore was instrumental in getting that.
Okay.
passed.
All right, cool, all right.
But, and as part of that, I guess, we've talked before about having some kind of workshop to discuss, try to get a consensus as to what we do want to how we
What do
wanna
we want in
act
it?
within a buffer zone or within 100 or 200 feet
Right.
from the river
Right.
zone. And try to get some more on the same page, talk about chicken coops and
Yeah.
things like that will lead toward wanting an ordinance for
Yeah.
parts of it.
Yeah, and is there more information we wanna see in an NOI filing?
Yeah.
That type of thing, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, good, all right, well, no, this,
Awesome.
I like these discussions, these are great. So Jim, and Nick, I'll be in touch.
Awesome.
Thank you. Anything under commissioner news?
I had something.
Oh, Dan, yeah.
So I went up to, I was hanging around Shoalin for the Apple Blossom Festival, and I got talking with the owner of Lunenburg Goat Rescue. And really cool organization. As a matter of fact, I'm going on a goat walk. They're doing hikes in Lunenburg with goats, untethered. And what I found interesting talking to her is that she's worked with the Lunenburg Commission, and she actually holds those hikes through the properties, through the conservation areas. And I thought two things. One, that Hill Street Trail, the meadow up there, is near and dear to my heart, and the neighbors were relatively upset when the bunnies got run over last year in the field. They, part of their task, or part of their job and rental, is they rent goats to clear out property. And I thought, what a nice way to mow that meadow in a non-intrusive, keep the other animals healthy. And at the same time, we could probably barter with them to do goat hikes up through the trails. So she makes some money out of doing the goat hikes on various properties, maybe at Prospect Park, which would be nice and flat for old people like me. And then for young whippersnappers going up the hill at the Hill Street trails, the goats could take us on the and I think it would be a really neat idea.
Yeah, they use goats to mow the landfill down on Mechanic Street, right?
Yeah.
They'll eat anything.
Yeah.
Poison ivy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Oh, I like that, that's great. So what
Just diving.
Well, I think if everybody thinks it's a good idea, maybe Nick and I can take a ride over, I can take a ride over, kind of ponder the whole thing with the owner and say, would you let, she already said, hey, I'm on the commission here, would you be interested in doing this? She goes, I would love to do something with this.
I don't think it'll get any pushback here, so.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to her, find out more.
Bring on the goats.
Okay, can I request baby goats too?
Oh, yeah, they got
Yeah,
dogs.
Okay. Go to face on the bottom.
I'll go as long as I don't have to pick up the goats.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
So, under Commissioner News, before we jump off that, I'd actually, two quick things. So first, I didn't put it on here, but the next conservation hike is gonna be on June 1st. So I think
I don't think that's a Thursday, I think.
it's next Thursday
Yeah.
at 4. It's gonna be at the Granite Street Trailhead.
Really?
At the very end of Granite Street, you go up this like gravel road, and there's a parking area up there. So it'll be like a short 1 mile loop. It's on like a plateau, kind of on the side of Monoosuc Mountain, but it's all, the trail itself is very level, so.
So that was at 1 o'clock?
It's at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock on June 1st.
Where exactly are you walking us up there from the parking lot?
That small loop that comes around, so that you like,
Going into 15 and then over to 25 and back out.
I don't know the numbers that well, but it's, you walk past the kiosk in the parking lot, and then you come back down like the access
And you go to the
road.
next one, take a left and
Yep.
come back and.
Yep.
Yeah, 15, 25.
So that's the one. So so it should be a good one, and then,
Is that just the point of the hike is just a pretty hike? Is there any particular objective?
I have it as like it's like a mountaintop hike.
like
So
it.
we'll talk about some, mountaintop species. We'll talk a little bit about the history. It's like a lot of forest around here. It seems to be secondary growth forest. So a lot of pine trees, old stone walls along there. So
It goes,
And
the
some-
first stretch it goes through is a gorgeous mountain laurel spot.
Ooh, yeah.
That in about 3 weeks.
That might be
blooming.
flowering.
that's
And
exactly
has
yeah.
been a moonlight hike for the trail stewards, was last year in late June, and they glow under the moon. All those Mount Laurel
Really?
flowers, and there's a good section of them
Wow.
between the kiosk and 15.
But they're going next week.
Don't miss
I'm
that.
hopeful
On
that-
Thursday, yeah.
The flowers have been
Daytime.
the flower buds have been swelling up. I'm sure. Are you confident in the 3 week estimation?
No.
I was hoping,
No, it's the first
I'm hoping
time
they might be early.
It's typically June, so
I'm hoping
June.
they might be early. And also, pink lady slippers are blooming this time of
yes,
year,
they
and
are.
there's a nice big colony of lady slippers up there, but I haven't seen any flower. They don't flower every year, but you can see all the leaves coming up. So we might see a flower, we might not, but we talk about some lady slipper while we're
You
up there.
might see Bob and I, he lives closer than I do, I'm right
I know,
here.
I pass this house every time.
And he wears lady slippers.
What were your second thing you had?
And the second thing, just a quick little thing, I got contacted by a student from Skyview Middle School who was talking about some community improvement projects that they had to come up with for, I'm not sure what class up there, but he had suggested installing bat boxes, and he contacted me today about the possibility of building some bat boxes and installing them in different conservation areas around the city. So I said that I would
Cool.
mention it to the commission. I don't anticipate any pushback on that. So
The faster, the better.
I don't know. I've had students reach out to me for other projects, and then unfortunately I reach back out to them, and then I don't hear anything. So I'm hoping that, and I'm not sure if this is like part of his project and it's going to be over when summer vacation comes through, or if he's kind of doing this on his own accord, inspired by the project. So we may get some new bat boxes in some
excellent.
areas around the city.
Lovely.
Yeah. So that's it.
Love Bat Box.
I guess we'll call him the Batman.
There you go, Bat Kid.
or
Yeah.
Bat Boy.
Bat Boy, there you go.
That's
No,
it.
that term is used.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, that it?
That's
All
it.
set? Jim?
I spoke with Nick the other day about it, and thank you for the car passes.
Oh yes.
But
Yeah. That's
I wanted to bring
Yeah.
up whether or not we could get personal IDs to hang on a lanyard that we could hang from our neck.
That's it, the neck.
Yeah, in terms of like an official like photo ID thing, that might be a little bit much of an ask,
You
but
could still use the logo and put it
Yeah.
in and do something like that, and
Sure.
set it up so we could put a lanyard on.
I was just gonna, something like that would be very possible, and I can pursue that.
Unofficial.
I don't need a photo ID, but
No.
it's something that.
Right,
What if we want to put our picture on it?
you can glue it on.
Yes.
But yeah,
Photoshop.
yeah, I could look into that.
All right, so we'll have this on the dashboard, we'll have our orange vest, and we'll have an ID
Yes.
on a lanyard on it.
So
yeah.
it covers.
Stephanie, you weren't at the site visit, right?
You gave me.
No.
Do you want
I
this?
got my
Cool,
machete.
thank you.
Can we also get a hat that says nerd on it?
That speaks for itself,
I
that's
know, right?
obvious.
I think we should all be issued machetes.
Well, you've got 3 of them, so.
I will, inspired by Rich at the last site walk, I did order a 200-foot tape measure for the
sweet.
commission, so
Good.
we'll have that
All right.
on future site walk.
Good, all right, so moving on, next meeting is June 13th, 2023. The filing deadline is this coming Friday, correct?
Mhm. Yep,
And May
because we got 3
26th
weeks.
at noon, we still have 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Stephanie, is there a second?
I'll second
Thank you.
All right. Ken?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Bob?
Celtics win,
Rich?
Yeah, come on.
I think they're in our favor.
Aye.
And Chuck.
Aye.
All right, motion accepted.
All right, thanks all.
I was gonna put go either direction.